You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
All right, huddle up. We're going to crank these engines up on one. All right? Wait, 80. Set. Drivers, start your engines.
This is the Finish Line.
I coached some great offensive linemen in the past. Larry Little, Dwight Stevenson, Jim Langer, all Hall of Famers, and Richmond Webb belongs to that same group.
Here are your hosts, legendary Miami Dolphins left tackle Richmond Webb, Reason, and Mr. BallGame.
What's going on, Dolphin Brawl Nation? We welcome you back into another episode of The Finish Line. As always, I'm your host, Reason, and I'm joined by the legendary Richmond Webb and the Triple OG Mr. BallGame. And you can follow all of us on Twitter. You can follow Richmond Webb at Richmond Webb. You can follow BallGame at KCTSR. And you can follow myself at _real_reason. And you can follow Dolphins Brawl at Dolphins Brawl on Twitter as well. What's going on, gentlemen?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm good. First preseason game played, saw some really good things, saw some things we still need to continue to work on. But, hey, it's football. It's rolling again, and we got the Falcons coming up. I think the good thing is this is the second week that, as a team, they get to work against, they got to work against the Bears, and then they get to work against Atlanta. So the more reps you can get against different people or personnel other than the guys that you're not going to be playing against, you practice against, I always think that's a good thing. So other than that, can't complain. Got a little rain the other day, but it's hot down here in Texas. But other than that, I'm good, and just looking forward to the next football game. How you doing, Mr. BallGame?
It's all good here, bro. Wish we had some of that rain, man. It's been hot, boy. I tell you, today it felt like the devil was just out laughing at folk, pointing his finger at you. It was blazing hot down here. But aside from that, man, it's a good time of the year. Football is back in bloom, and a lot of positives as well. I saw from the game on Saturday. I'm with you. There are definitely some things that need to be worked on, but I anticipate a lot of that. So it is what it is. I'm sure we're going to get into much of that, but, it's good to be here. So go ahead.
You know how many people asked me, Richmond, this week, because Austin Jackson played so good, that people were asking if you were available to suit up for the Miami Dolphins this weekend?
I even actually got that question on Twitter, and I think a lot of people don't realize is that, it's been almost 20 years since I actually laced them up. So,
hey,
I
slap those knee
it.
braces on, kid, because you might give us something better than what we're getting right now.
That would be ugly, bro. I'm gonna tell you that. That would hurt me real bad right now. Even thinking about putting some knee braces on. My goodness.
So yeah, the Bears game. Obviously, one of the major talking points coming away from that game was, of course, the play of Austin Jackson. It wasn't impressive by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, you could make the argument that Larnell Coleman looked a little bit more steady when he was in, albeit he was against the second and third team defense. But I think when you look at what Austin Jackson gave you, I mean, he had 16 pass blocking reps, and he gave up 3 pressures on 16 pass blocking reps, 2 hurries and 1 hit. And in fact, if you look at that tight window throw to Matt Collins, he almost got Tua Tagovailoa hurt. And if you go back last year to the Chiefs game, remember when he got pushed back and he actually stepped on Tua's foot. But this time around, he almost went into to his leg, and Tua actually couldn't step up and fully drive the ball into the tight window, but he got enough zip on it to make the throw towards Matt Collins. So let's start off with, your thoughts on Austin Jackson against Chicago, Richmond.
Well, I knew they were going to have their hands full, not just Austin, but, BallGame. We had talked about it previously about, Chicago probably have one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL right now. So I knew as a unit it was going to be really tough. But, from as far as being left tackles, you got to try to be more consistent. It doesn't matter the position or whatever. You got to be more consistent. And, that's some of the things I talked about, knowing the pass protection. And we even looked at a couple of plays before we started taping. But is it a 3-step? Is it a 5-step? Is it 7-step? All that determines how you set. If it's 3-step, you can set a lot more aggressive, a lot more firmer on the line, this and that. So you have to know that, not just to play, but you got to say, okay, is it a 3-step, 5-step, 7-step? If it's a 7-step, it's a deeper drop for the quarterback. He's normally going to take a little longer for the play to develop. So you got to be able to take a good set. You don't want the guy to beat you inside. If he's coming inside, I'm looking for a game where the tackle to loop around or something like that. So you still got to set firm to be able to pass it off with the guard to be level and stuff like that. But just really got to work and bust your tail to try to be more consistent and be, firmer. You got to look at it as, and I learned this in college, we was always, you don't want to be the weak link, or you don't want to be the guy that everybody is covering up for. So you got to do whatever it is to kind of raise your level of play to be more consistent. I think he's a great athlete. I think he has all the tools. It's just being able to put it together and be more consistent. And it gives your quarterback a level of confidence that he knows, even if I'm going to get pressure, most of the time it's not going to come from over here. It's going to come from over there. So just things he's got to work on, but he's got to get it together quick. And I think I said that previously before we got in pads, is that, everybody looked good in the shorts and helmets and stuff like that. But once you put on the pads and really begin to work, that's when you got to show that you can really execute and get it done. So he's still got some work to do.
My biggest issue with him is I'm seeing the same stuff that I saw in USC that had me low on him coming out in the draft, that got exposed last year, especially by Bradley Chubb, guys coming across his face real easy. His anchor is real questionable at times too. Looked like he thought we were playing hockey, and he put on the Bauer skates on Saturday, and because he was just on skates most of the time. I have a friend who he's an evaluator at MV Scouting on Twitter, Matt Valdivinos. He played offensive line. I think he was a 4-star recruit, and then he blew out his ACL. And so he told me, he's an offensive lineman. He told me, you lose 1 rep, you've lost the game. And, this kid, I don't know whether it's him not putting it together or whether it's the carousel we have at offensive line coaches. We had Steve Marshall last year. They promoted Lemuel Jean-Pierre. And, with coaches, different coaches, you got different philosophies, different ways of teaching, different techniques they try and stress. So I don't know whether it's a combination or one or the other, but it's obviously serious because they went and they acquired Greg Little from the Carolina Panthers, who he's never played right tackle. He's played left tackle at Ole Miss. He played left tackle with the Carolina Panthers. I showed you some, can we even call them highlights before we started this? So call them lowlights, I guess. And just quickly, your thoughts on what you saw from the little bit that I showed you with Greg Little, because really that's the guy that's going to be backing up Austin Jackson.
Yeah, the thing that, and I kind of saw Twitter going to a panic after the first game, and they was like, well, we need this, we need to tackle this. And I think, I know that, Coach Flores, they know that they still have some issues to address. They didn't address everything in the draft for free agency. So that's why you sign a guy like Little. Is he the answer? I don't know, but I think you will continue to see them continue to evaluate and try to remedy this situation. I do think they look at this and say, hey, Tua is healthy now. The weapons we have around him are astronomical. So the key is give him enough time to go out and showcase his talent or get the ball to some of the weapons that we have. So is Little the answer? I don't know. I think we'll find out pretty quick. But if not, I think we'll be back out there looking for, another tackle or something like that to try to shore up this offensive line and get a little bit more consistent. As far as Jackson, when I saw his clips coming out of USC or whatever, the only thing that I didn't really question, I was just wondering him being, I think he's 20 years old. So I didn't know how long he played. And I think a lot of times guys need another year or two to develop because you go from playing in college to the NFL. That's a big transition. And like you said, if he needs to work on anchoring or getting stronger, this and that, well, if you stay in college another year, your body gets a chance to develop. His body is still developing if he was 20 years old. So I was 23 when I came in, but it's a different league now. I'm not comparing him to me. I'm just saying some guys, it take a little bit longer. And for me, it was a good thing because I started out on defense and then made the transition to offense. And so I'm glad I stayed all that time because if I wouldn't, I probably wouldn't have been a high draft round pick. I probably would have been a developmental guy that possibly developed into becoming that, but having that extra time definitely paid dividends for me.
The other thing too is, he played the Pac-12 when he played against talent that came to the NFL, the Julian Aquaras, the AJ Epenesas. They dominated him when he faced them in college. All right. Like they gave him the business. I thought he was a reach at 18 when they took him. I still believe he was. But besides that, two questions. What do you think about playing a 17-game season with Jesse Davis at right tackle? And on top of that, were you guys as impressed that I was about how the interior kind of held up? Kinley had a few bad reps, but the interior for the most part was pretty solid.
I think the interior is the strength of our offensive line. I think if we can get a little bit better play out of the tackle position, I think everybody will feel a lot more comfortable. But as far as the interior guys, I think we got some road graders, some grinders. That's good and solid. So the good thing is you only got a couple of positions maybe to just work on and get that right versus, all five because you don't want to be a jailbreak in there. That's, I'd be looking like, man, who we going to put in there? Because you don't want to send a young quarterback, even an old quarterback through that to, where he's just getting beat up or, guys, it's a stat game for defensive linemen or whatever because they'll be fighting. Nobody want to come out the game. They'll be trying to, it's a track meet to the quarterback. So, but that is encouraging. The thing is, we just gotta get better. We gotta be more consistent. And that's the thing. I don't think you gotta be a all pro, but you gotta be more consistent as far as playing as an offensive lineman.
BallGame. Nick Needham was, in my opinion, the best player on the field for the defense on Saturday. The guy was everywhere, 4 pass breakups. He looked absolutely phenomenal. He actually got carted off today during practice, but then he walked off the cart under his own willpower. What were your thoughts of the defense? Jerome Baker was barely out. He was out there for like 14 snaps, and he somehow managed to get like a 28.7 PFF grade. I don't know what he did. But what was your thoughts on how the defense looked on Saturday against the Bears?
I was a little, to be honest with you, it was par for the course for me in terms of the defense. I knew that Chicago's offense, without Allen Robinson being there and the O-line being banged up, weren't going to be able to be as productive as they wanted to be against us. I think the biggest thing for me was that without Agba up front, we really didn't generate the level of pressure in terms of getting to the quarterback with the first group with Dalton that I thought we were going to do. You know, most of what he saw was very vanilla in terms of the backfield coverage and things of that nature. And Boyer ran a lot more zone too than I anticipated him running. But I guess that's, you know, it's the best time now for him to run that type of stuff and see if our guys are actually capable of it, because in theory, you can't go 85, 90% of the year running man press all the time. You got to throw different looks at people. So this is the time to do it. And the guys held up pretty good, you know what I'm saying, for the most part. Yeah, I saw that PFF rating that Jerome got, and I was like, I don't know what the hell these guys were looking at, because he was barely out there. You know what I mean? Like, I kept saying, like, after the first and second, I was like, get him off the field. Like, he doesn't need to be out there. We got other guys that we need to see. Like, this is a complete time for your starters. Go in there and get a couple reps, get them the hell out of there, and let these other guys who are fighting for jobs, for depth purposes, get in there and get as much as possible. You know, like, I saw, you know, they played Strawberries at outside linebacker.
He was
terrible.
terrible.
That's a fail. You know what I mean? That's a definitely bad choice. Whoever decided to try that.
He was whiffing on tackles like
yes.
It was no one's business.
Yes, horrible. But I think a lot of that comes down to the depth. You know what I mean? Like, they just don't have a lot of linebackers. And I think a lot of that has to do with when we get into the season, as we move forward, I think you're going to see a lot of the exotics. Like, if you think about it, the 3-3-5 only features 3 linebackers, but they can actually flex out. I think that what's going to happen is they're going to flex in those guys. Trill Williams, if he makes the squad, I think he has a good shot at making it. Trill, and bring Brandon or even Hollins down to play those outside linebacker spots.
Well, didn't you see they were doing that with Nate Hawley and Clayton Fledglam? We're playing the hybrid outside linebacker in the box.
So I think they're going to feature that more so as the pass coverage look, so that you still got continuity with your 3-man rush up front, have your Mike in the middle, and then those guys can flex out along with your nickel to handle all of the passing threats, and that should be phenomenal across the board. But I wasn't surprised, bro. I knew, even from the reports of practice, they knew they was going to struggle against our defense. I mean, those guys play. And you know, let me say this. In Needham's defense, he earns everything he gets in terms of accolades and things of that nature, because to go from the 5-11 season where he was out there looking like how the hell in the world he's going to ever play at this level, to what he gave us last year in the 10-6 season minus the Buffalo game. You know what I mean? I can argue across the board with anybody that hell, Needham was one of our most impactful players on defense last year. And, you know, I was a little worried when I saw that he went down, but then when he got up and walked off on his own power, I was like, okay, well, maybe just tweak some a bit, you know. And they can rest him. You kind of know what you got in Needham, you know what I mean? At this point, like, he's arguably one of the more important pieces on the defense now at this point. So I'm just glad that they went out and represented the way I thought they would, you know. And I think they're gonna do the same this week against the Falcons. Hell, Rowe is already out there erasing pits. So, but he's a rookie though, so I expect a savvy veteran like Eric Rowe to be able to eliminate what Kyle Pitts brings to the table. One-on-ones, I see people in the Twitter world all raving about the fact that really out here beating X and beating Jones, but that shit don't mean nothing.
Dude, that Calvin Ridley rep today was absolute bull
6
crap.
seconds, bro.
Dude, the guy's, you know, I mean, Matt Ryan's being put in the dirt before Calvin can even make a move, man.
So I'm like, man,
that was nonsense.
This dude in 11-on-11 action, you don't see none of that from him. So, like, he'll never have that much time. So, start raving over these one-on-one reps. But as far as last Saturday was concerned, I was pleased. You know, until we got to the third and the fourth guys, which I knew then at that point, I was like, oh, yeah, Fields going to eat because we ain't had nobody.
Yeah, but Fields, to their credit, when they kept Fields in the pocket, he looked kind of lost. It's when he got outside the pocket, he started making plays.
Yeah, that was it. And but in theory, that's what you want to do, right? You want to force a guy that's athletic like he is to beat you from the pocket. We just didn't have the athletes to keep him in there. Strowbeard was not the answer, bro. Like, he does no way in the world. Even when he had the angle, Fields was still so much more athletically inclined than him that he just beat him around outside, and it was, you know, like, gee whiz, bro. Why did anybody ever put their kid in that position? I was more upset for him than anything, because I'm thinking to myself, George Strowbeard will never be an outside linebacker, ever.
Yeah.
So, but, you know,
Richmond, what did you think of Tua's performance?
I looked at his numbers. You know, he had he went like 8-11, 8-12. He had the pick down in the red zone, but other than that, I thought he had a good game. I, I still react to Twitter because you know, a lot of people believe, you know, you throw one interception or, you know, they count the ones in practice. And I'll be like, hey, man, that's what practice is for. And, you know, you make the mistakes. Sometimes you can be a little bit more aggressive sometime in preseason than you can in the regular season. Sometimes you figure out what works and what not. If this is the time you're going to try, this time to try. But I thought he played pretty well, honestly. But like I said, give him the time that he needs, that he feels comfortable in the pocket. And that's why I say the big boys up front got to do their job. They do that. His play is really going to continue to elevate. So I thought he played good.
And if you actually break down that interception too, I mean, you could clearly tell he was hoping Waddle was going to separate. If you look at his base when he makes the throw over the middle to Shaheen, his drive foot is still angled towards Waddle. It's not back reset towards Shaheen. So he didn't even have his base reset to make the throw and really drive the ball in there. And, you know, you watch his progressions as his head moved. I mean, he saw Shaheen look back at him when Shaheen was open, but Waddle hadn't been targeted all game, and I think he wanted to get the kid's feet wet. So, I mean, and like you said, you know, it's preseason. You can do that now. From everything I've heard and everyone who's reported, he's made that read and throw much earlier at the time he's supposed to make it in practice over and over again. It's just clear this time he was hoping Waddle was going to separate, and he didn't. So,
and that's what practice is for. That's what I tell people. Football, any kind of sport you play, whatever, it's muscle memory. You just keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And a lot of things is almost like, and I always tell my kids that when you first start driving a car, you know, you got your hands at 10 and 2, and you real alert, this and that. As you continue to drive, you can put one hand on, you might can, you know, adjust the radio or whatever.
Drive with your leg.
Yeah, you just automatically, you just get better with time to where you're not thinking about everything. It's just automatic. But that's, you know, that's what practice is for. You know, you don't want to always do it, but it does pay dividends. Yeah.
These preseason games to me are televised practices, right? So I always think to myself, like, these guys don't go out there and make mistakes now, then it's not worthwhile, right? Why even do it? This is the time to screw up big too. Make it big so somebody can actually help you, you know what I'm saying, dial it back or tweak whatever is wrong with the technique so that you can actually have it fixed. Because when the game's really on the line, the last thing you want to do is being out there, you know what I'm saying, completely out of sorts, you know, and doing things that are going to put you in dire straits. And like, I don't care about no interception, man, in no preseason game, man. That boy looked phenomenal out there. So he was moving around in the pocket, you know what I mean? He's healthy enough now for me, actually. And I look at it a little different, I think, in terms of, like, I know them guys up front young. I ain't cutting them no breaks, of course. You know, they got to develop and all. But Tua is mobile enough now and healthy enough now, man. He can make up for the differences of what they lack. You know what I mean? That's what I see. I see that kid is phenomenal, that pocket presence. And he ain't gonna just stand there and take unnecessary hits. You know what I'm saying? He's feeling around him, watching the flanks and watching Dieter and Hunt and Kenley, you know what I mean, do their thing, and then he's filling that pocket to the point where he's like, okay, I don't have the time. Okay, now I can move. I got to move here, move there, and he did that. I mean, and you know, I get it. I get the concerns that a lot of people have, but at the end of the day, it's still practice to me, televised practice. So as long as he consistently continues to talk to them, which I love, right? I think everybody need to notice that. Him going and talking to those guys when things break down, things happen, right? They're building their relationships, right? They're building their trust together, and I think that's the biggest thing. If he can impart upon Jackson the fact that, listen, bro, I don't care what nobody else say. I need you, right? Yep. And they build their relationship that way, that'll make Jackson play better. I mean, I think that puts more of a buy-in to him instead of him worrying about what the coach is thinking. Now I got Tua, my friend, that I got to protect. You feel me? And our relationship is contingent upon how well I do my job for him, type of thing. And that's what football is about, really, when it comes down to it. Everybody got to buy in. You know what I mean? You got to play for each other. So, and we'll see. They have to just do on offense now what the defense has already done. Those guys play for each other on defense. You can tell they're not leaving anybody hanging. You know what I mean? And that's what that's what I kept saying about the first 6 games for me is most crucial because they got to figure out their identity. They got to figure out who they playing for. They got to play for each other, you know, and that's gonna be one of the biggest things. If they come out 4-2 out of the first 6, bro, like that's gonna be huge. I'm anticipating 3-3, but if they get 4-2 or even 5-1, shit, they're gonna be a problem. I'm just saying they're gonna be a problem because if you look at them 6 games, man, that's arguably the hardest part of the schedule, and it's right out the gate. So how this young team, you know what I'm saying, flourishes through that adversity, bro, is going to be huge for deciding who they're going to be going forward. Because then at that point, it's all about maintaining the wave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you get in the rhythm.
You done already fought through the current to get out there to get into, you know what I mean, the flow of things, and now you done got to stand up on it. You know what I mean? You can just let the wave take you. You know what I'm
saying? You've been swimming laps in that pool. I see that ball game. Yeah.
A little bit. You know what I mean? So,
but you know what, you're right, and the thing I think people don't, and a lot of time, like you said, the preseason games are sometimes practice, but really the third game is where majority of the time your starters get the most work. They get to play into the second half to kind of get a feel of what's coming out after and so that's why it's important in your first and second game. You might get a couple of series in and out, so you want to really condition yourself. Say, we're not going to get that many plays, but we want to be effective. You want to go out and execute this and that. And then you always look for a challenge, like you said earlier about the Bears. That's one of the top 5 defense. So if you can go out and execute against them, you know, that's a notch to say, okay, yeah, if we can play against them, we should be able to play with anybody. Not saying it's going to be easy, but we should be able to go out and execute. So, yeah, you brought up some good points there.
So this week they had the joint practices with the Atlanta Falcons as they'll be facing them. Dolphins and Falcons will be on Saturday night at 7 p.m. And day 1 of joint practices didn't go very well. Austin Jackson got a tongue lashing from Tua Tagovailoa. He allowed 3 or 4 sacks. Jesse Davis gave up some. Kinley was getting shoved around. You know, it was Grady Jarrett was having his way at certain points in practice. And then today the offensive line rebounded a little bit. Tua had some time working it in red zone drills. You know, Tua's only thrown 6 interceptions in 15 practices with pads. I wanted to put that in perspective right now.
That's amazing.
But that's really, really good. He threw one today to Isaiah Oliver. He didn't throw one yesterday. You know, the injuries are piling up. Lynn Bowden Jr. went down today, and it looked like he was holding his hammy. Fuller hasn't practiced, which seems like all of camp. DVP is out. Preston Williams returned today off the PUP, as did Landon Roberts. Jalen Phillips is back out there. He's just starting off the edge. But the receiving core is really depleted. Kirk Merritt is balling out right now. He was with the ones for some periods today too. That man's worked his way all the way up from the 3s to the 1s, working from Reed Sinnich, Jacoby Brissett, now getting reps of Tua today. What are your guys' initial thoughts off the first 2 days of joint practices with the Atlanta Falcons?
I would argue at this point, bro, like not seeing Fuller and not having DVP or Wilson out there could be part of their plan, bro, to figure out exactly who the hell they're going to keep out of this group that's so talented. And I think, you know, to some degree, it works in a guy like Kirk Merritt's favor, who we all, you know, all are rooting for because he's a physical specimen. So the more reps, the more activity they get to see of him, the more they got a better decision. You know what I'm saying? It helps them make the decision more because at this point, like Mac Hollins been preseason fucking MVP. Let's be clear. You know what I'm saying? That dude been the most reliable receiver we've had. And nobody would have ever thought that other than him just being a hybrid tight end and, you know what I'm saying, special teams guy. Now he is going to be possibly actively involved in the rotation at the wide receiver spot. So you need guys. They need to be able to fully see them all. And if you had Fuller and Wilson and Parker out there, those reps are probably not going to be there for these other guys that are vying for spots. So I think it's a good thing because if Tua can go out there and still be productive with these guys that to most other people are dubbing as third and fourth string guys, and they're out there putting up points and productive, you know what I mean? Then that says a lot. That says a lot about him as a player and about them as players, and it just makes this whole decision for the Dolphins that much more difficult, right? And then I like it. I really do when it comes down to it because
Javon Holland had another interception today. That's 2 in the last 4 practices.
That's your boy there. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head with him. So that he gonna be a beast. I'm hoping that they don't bury him early. Let him play. Find somewhere else.
Behind McCourty?
Yeah, man. I don't want him to bury him. Let him play. I mean, the kid's proven at this point to me that he's savvy enough, you know what I mean, and athletic enough to be able to handle the load of what they're asking of him, man. He's productive. He's ball hawking, right? He's all around the ball. X is out there covering Ridley and knocks the ball away. Next thing you know, it's intercepted by Holland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That tells me, one, his alignment and his assignment are exactly where they're supposed to be because he's supposed to be the catcher's mitt for things of that nature and to be in the area to be able to help and support. So, because you don't get those type of picks just by happenstance. You know what I mean? You got to be in position or at least in the vicinity of the wide receiver and the DB exchange in order to get those. And him being there, being a recipient of that tells me the kid's where he's supposed to be. So, that's my biggest thing right now. I want to see how they continue this process going into Saturday. When is the game? Sunday?
Saturday at 7.
Is it Saturday? Saturday at 7. So, yeah, I don't want them to bury him, but, I mean, it's kind of hard to figure out what they're going to do with McCourty because I don't think he was happy about possibly having to go back to boundary corner. But, you know, he in a real deal battle with Holland for this starting free safety spot. And I said, fuck it, let the young man play. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So,
what do you think of how the joint practices have gone, Richmond?
Yeah, the thing that really stood out to me was, which I think is good, and it just shows that Tua is becoming or evolving as a leader. As a quarterback, you got to take command of the huddle and of the offensive unit. And like you said, when the offensive line didn't perform the way they wanted to have him come out and get on them, that shows that you're being a leader and saying that's not acceptable, this and that. Not that you don't like the guy, but you expect more from the group than that. So always good to hear that. And then with a guy like Kirk Merritt, the way he's performed, like you said, when you're a guy that's third on the depth chart, it just shows that this guy is hungry. Mac Hollins is hungry. That's the thing about those guys know that they gotta approach each practice like it's game time and work and put up the numbers and be efficient and this and that. And because most of the time they know if they're going to make the team, it's probably going to be on special teams. But like with the injuries and stuff like this, you look at it and say, hey, this is my time to shine. I'm getting the opportunity and you're getting it on film. Not just for the Dolphins, but some of these practices and stuff. You can believe Atlanta Falcons are looking at those guys and grading and just in the event that if the Dolphins had to release somebody like that. So this is your time to showcase this and that. But I really like that Tua, and I do like the fact that even though they had a bad practice the first day, they come back out and respond. But then somebody in the offensive line group has got to say, hey, guys, this is not going to be acceptable. We're not going to continue to one day good, one day bad. We got to get on a more consistent deal to where, hey, this is our expectation. We don't need anybody telling us what we're doing, this and that. We got to be able to pull it together and be, play much better than that, because we know we're better than that. You shouldn't have to continue to have somebody tell you, come on, let's pick it up. So those are the two takes I got from that.
Now, we're going to talk about the game on Saturday, but we're not going to do predictions and stuff because it's just a glorified practice.
No, you can't. Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll start. I'll go through each one of you, and I'll ask you what people should be looking for. I'll start with you, Richmond. Now, obviously, this front seven of the Atlanta Falcons isn't as stout and as formidable as the front seven of the Bears, but they gave us real problems on day one of the joint practice, which had a lot of people worried. What are you looking for offensively in this game? And I'll get the same question I'm going to ask BallGame. Xavier Howard came out today and he said that he expects to play on Saturday. Do you, with only 3 games now, no longer 4, do you expect this game to be the dress rehearsal for the ones?
Yes. If it's only 3 preseason games, exactly right. Because the last game, that's the game that the second, third, the guys that's trying to make the team, that they're pretty much going to play that third preseason game. So this is the game that you'll probably see the starters play. I'm gonna say a half, maybe a series into the third quarter, and it probably depends on how many snaps. If the offense has around 30 snaps by halftime, they may say, okay, that's enough. We've seen enough. But if you only had like 15 or whatever, you probably can expect to play into the third quarter or whatever. And for the defense, normally defense, if they play 60 plays or less, that's a game. So if they get around 25 snaps in the first half, that might be it for them. But like you say, X them, they get in, do their work, and say, hey, I'm good, this and that. Pull them on out, and then the third game, those guys, the backups and stuff like that to get that. I expect, like you said, Atlanta has a good front, but it's not the Chicago Bears, so I expect the protection and everything should be much better. Offensively, we should be much more efficient, and the first unit, I would like to see them get in the end zone and not turn the ball over in the red zone and be more efficient, get a little bit of the running game going. But I think the way our offense is built, the passing game is our strength. So I like to see Tua go on and have, instead of 8 of 11, if he was 16 or 20 or something like that, or 18 or 22 or something like that, that's good for me. So I just get them enough work to say, okay, I think we're ready to go in there and pull them out.
Speaking of the running game, I mean, how impressive was Salvin Ahmed against Chicago? He looked so good.
He looked good.
BallGame, what do you think? Do you think this is going to be the dress rehearsal for the ones? And what are you going to be looking for defensively if that is the case?
Well, the fact that there's only 3 games and Jones and Needham and Agba and Phillips all didn't play in the first game. Yeah, I think this is going to be the game that they're going to they're going to kind of let them get into their groove, because with the cuts looming next Tuesday, they got to kind of go ahead and get these guys some quality reps and things of that nature, because they got to be down to 80, right? And then by the third game is when they make the largest cut, right? So yeah, there's still a lot of guys to evaluate, still a lot of guys to get playing time. So like Richmond said, third game is probably going to be more so for the backup guys, but I can see them using this game as a dress rehearsal for the defense in particular, and then you just rest them up and let them, because that'll give them next week that they won't necessarily need any work, and then do you give
everyone one series against the Bengals, because then they have 2 weeks off?
They say they have 2 weeks off. Yeah, exactly. Especially your core guys that without a shadow of a doubt are already cemented and making
locked,
it. Locked in guys. So because there's so many guys they still have to take a look at. And this will be the one last opportunity, because no one wants to be in training camp and not afford the guys that show up and go through all of this stuff that they're going through an opportunity to at least show their ability. And even if it's not for us, let something be on film for another team, possibly. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think the defense is going to go out on Saturday and completely dominate Atlanta. To be honest with you, I think Pitts is going to be bottled up by Eric Rowe, the tight end eliminator, and then Ridley is going to be giving fits because I don't really know. To be honest with you, who is their number 2 receiver?
Russell Gage.
I ain't heard much about him, right? I don't think
He had a big play today.
What was it, 7-on-7 or 11-on-11?
I have the highlight. Let me look. He had a decent year last year too. It is. Let me look here. I think it was your favorite. One-on-one.
Nah, don't count it then. Don't count then. So, like I said, you know what I mean? Jones is more than capable of eliminating him. X is going to take Ridley. And then Coleman will lock up whoever their third option is, which nobody said anything about. And then Rowe to handle Pitts. And then you'll see that for maybe a half, and then they're out of there. You know what I mean? But I expect that our offense should be a little bit more efficient against Atlanta than they were against, especially, this time around with, knowing exactly what they needed to work on. And I think they fixed it. I mean, all you heard all week is that they've been killing across the middle of the field. You know what I mean? Up the, in the middle of the field. That's putting a lot of stress on Deion Jones and the middle linebacker because they got to make a decision. Do I come down and check down to the running back, or do I stay on the top and take the buck drop and run up the seam with, on the post and things of that nature? And I think Atlanta ain't figured that out yet. You know what I mean? Because they hit you, they be killing the middle of the field. So I expect that to be the continued theme, and pretty much, maybe a slight blowout. Chicago's first team offense didn't score against us either. So until you know what I mean. Yeah. So I don't anticipate there being much of a drop off. The defense is ready. So.
Yep. All right, guys. Richmond, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, just looking for them to continue to improve, be more consistent, and I'm ready for Saturday night. So no, I don't have anything else.
BallGame, any final thoughts?
No, man, it's a good time, bro. Just take in the fact that football is back and that this team is working extremely hard to put the best product on the field. I tell people don't get too caught up in the things that don't matter the most. If it ain't 11-on-11, you know what I mean, in terms of the outside battles between wide receivers and corners, then it ain't really worth even talking about, in my opinion. But, you know what I mean, it's always good to have guys be able to, showcase a little bit of defensive prowess in those situations. But if a DB gets beaten one-on-one, it's theoretically two people against one, because quarterback is really just waiting on the wide receiver to make a move, and they already kind of know where they're going. So it ain't even worth even putting your effort into that. So.
All right, guys, we'll be back here next week, and we'll review the pending result between the Falcons and the Dolphins. We'll talk about practice on the week leading up to the Bengals game. So until then, hope everyone stays happy, healthy, safe, and blessed. And we will see you next time. It's Fins Up all day, every day.